Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland on the Majority Report. It's a pleasure to welcome to the program Rahna Epting. She's the executive director at MoveOn.org. Rahna, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Sam.
So I'm reading the other day in Axios, as I sometimes do, not that often, but that some Democrats in the leadership are very, very upset.
They're mad at you.
Well, they're mad in general. And of course, what they're mad about is not Donald Trump or Elon Musk. They're mad that people are telling them that they should do something about Elon Musk and Donald Trump. And there were two groups that were cited in there. One was Indivisible and one was MoveOn. MoveOn didn't have a response in that time. Have you been mean to Richie Torres?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have a response because honestly, this is absolutely silly. I personally have done nothing to Richie Torres, but let me be clear about who's upset. It's his constituents. And you know what? The very fundamental act of democracy that we should be celebrating is when constituents reach out to the people they elected and express their concerns. And that's exactly what MoveOn helped tons of people do over the last couple of weeks, understandably, given the abomination of what's happening with this Trump-Musk presidency.
I'll tell you what I find really shocking is that it seems to me that there's, two ways in which you respond to getting all these calls from your constituents. One is to go, I can see oh, this is annoying. We're getting so many calls. We have to have people answer the phone constantly. And they can't do things like get me coffee, or they can't do things like, reorganize the stationery or something like that. The other response is this is amazing. We've got to harness this energy. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, we haven't had this type of support in ages. It is such a good sign that people are this engaged. We need to come up with a plan of attack. And then the third option is to not only be annoyed, but then to cry about it in public that somehow, I don't get how you can both think that MoveOn or Indivisible or other groups or whatever, or, podcasts are activating so many people as to make it impossible for us to do our jobs when we've already said we have no leverage and can't do anything, that you both hold simultaneously their ability to move this much that can ruin what you're doing, but also they don't have anything to offer us in terms of power. How do you hold both those ideas in your head simultaneously?
Well, I don't know. Maybe you should invite Richie Torres on the show next.
Well, he has us blocked on Twitter.
He blocked me on Twitter a long time ago.
I've
never had an exchange with him, and he blocked me.
But I mean, he put his name to that quote, but there were others, obviously, right? Yeah.
I mean, what really is missing in this story is that MoveOn did nothing out of the ordinary, really, over the last 2 weeks. We normally make it easy for our members to call their elected leaders and make their voices heard. What was drastically different these last couple of weeks is how many people took us up on our offer to call their member of Congress. And that has nothing to do with what MoveOn's doing. That is a testament to the actual anger and fear that the Democratic base, who's really, MoveOn is a large slice of the Democratic base, is actually feeling right now. And so my wish is for these elected leaders that are so upset to instead say, wow, look at all these voters of mine that are reaching out to me and asking me for help. Let me take this opportunity to respond and work with them and organize this energy into power so we can beat back this very incredibly existentially dangerous administration and what they're trying to do.
It's they're sitting there shooting blanks.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden somebody brings a dump truck up full of ammunition and they're like, please, we don't have the closet space or something. It's whoa. Go.
No, I mean, I just what can you just educate our audience as to what they can do? Because I think, it's true, of course, they don't have the House and they don't have the Senate. But what are some of the things in terms of just like communicating to the public that this is an issue, performing politics? When you are in opposition, it draws attention. Using the bully pulpit, like, what? Can you just explain how that works and why it's so important that they do it?
Yes. So the leverage that senators have is different than the leverage than House members have. And, they've made that point very clearly, and point taken. But it does, like, there are hard tools they have and there are the soft tools. And I think that what we're talking about is, actually, let me give an example. Some of these members are saying, well, folks in my district aren't alarmed. They're not talking about what's happening with the cuts with the Trump administration. And I think the answer here isn't, okay, so then not do anything. The answer is, oh, what's my job as an elected official? It's to help make sure my constituents understand what is happening in Washington and how that will directly impact me here at home. And how about hosting slews of town halls across your district?
Yes.
About calling your constituents, about sending them emails, about making sure going on in local media, making sure they understand what's happening. Like, that is those are some of the soft tools that anybody can use. I don't care what you're hearing or not hearing from your voters in your district. But some of the hard tools, I would say, in the House, really, they have the historically slim margin in the House. Republicans have like 3 votes. That's, they can't afford to lose any of those. And what Trump and Musk are doing is not even popular with the Republican base. So it is actually possible to peel off some Republican votes here. And Democrats should be doing nothing to help them pass these exorbitant cuts to things like Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, cancer research, what have you. Democrats should leave all options on the table to prevent this from happening. It's only going to hurt constituents in red and constituents in blue districts. And then on the Senate side, there's a ton more leverage on the Senate side, denying quorum if Republicans don't have the 51 votes in the chamber, or blocking unanimous consent, or maxing out debate time, which we've seen many senators as of late leverage that power. But it's not that they don't have levers. They definitely have less. They don't control the House or the Senate, yes, but it doesn't mean they don't have anything. And to even say that they don't is concerning, because what really I think this last election was like, who is fighting for me?
Yeah.
And that is what we have to make crystal clear, undeniable.
Can you imagine Mitch McConnell saying, I don't have any leverage in his heyday? Obama came in, massive electoral win in 2008. And you know what the Republicans said? We're not going to give him an inch. We're going to try to block everything. Mitch McConnell was successful in many ways in that regard. Can you imagine if after that he came out there and it was a much wider margin that Obama won by, and said, I don't have any leverage? Can you imagine that?
Not from that man, no. I think he's an evil genius who could write a master class and how to use leverage that's not even in the books, right? And how to create leverage that you never even had. But, we're not going to stop asking and encouraging and supporting and facilitating our members, who are voters, who are the base of the Democratic Party, to go out there and make their voices heard. And over this February recess week, that's exactly what we're going to continue to do, because there's nothing wrong with this. There's nothing to apologize for. This is exactly what we want people to be doing, is engaging in the civic process, in making sure that we're doing everything we can to stop Trump and Musk from stealing money out of our pockets and cutting lifelines for people in this country.
Rahna, give me a sense of what MoveOn, how MoveOn sees itself. Like, what is it supposed to be doing? I mean, I know the organization. I'm old enough to remember the organization got its start in the wake of the Clinton impeachment, when he was being impeached for lying in an affidavit about the definition of is and having sex with a Monica Lewinsky, and MoveOn was born out of the sense of like the country has more important things to be worried about.
Yeah.
Incidentally, half the people who brought those impeachment things were having active affairs at the time in the Republican Party. But put that aside. What is MoveOn like? Where do you fit in this? Like, what do you perceive your role to do?
Look, so that's a great question, and you have quite a good memory, Sam.
I'm old.
The heart of who we are is we give people tools to act together, to apply pressure to decision makers, whatever that may be. And so right now, the best thing we can do is to help regular folks out there make their voices heard in a highly concerning moment. And it is our elected officials that need to figure out how to solve the problems that's what we elected them to do. And so we're an expression or we're giving people the ability to express their voices. And oftentimes, especially as of late, that has resulted in supporting Democrats or, supporting Biden or Harris to run for office. But it's not always the same. It depends on what's happening in the political climate. I'd say this moment we are in right now, an incredibly perilous moment where it's not just, it's not Bush v. Gore anymore. We're talking about people that who are rotting our government from the inside and stealing hard-earned taxpayer dollars to strip away Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, cancer research, food stamps, so that they can increase tax cuts for the wealthy. That's what they're doing. It's all a grift. And it's creating a national security crisis at the same time. It's making all of us less safe. It's destabilizing, markets. It's destabilizing the global world order. So this is not Democrat v. Republican anymore. This is like billionaires versus the rest of us. And now more than ever, it's incredibly important that people make their voices heard. And we as people have leverage too. And that is people power and people pressure on the decision makers. And we're not going to let up because the stakes are just too high.
And do you have any mechanisms in which to get stories of how people are being impacted by what they're doing in terms of like hollowing out our government?
Yeah, we sure do. I mean, we have millions of members all throughout the country who are or are going to be directly impacted by these cuts that they're threatening through this budget fight, or they're threatening through Elon Musk's efforts to bully his way through these federal agencies and turn off the spigot directly himself. But the way folks can really get engaged, we're moving out events all throughout the country next week. People can go to moveon.org/recess. And they can host an event or join an event where we'll be meeting with our members of Congress. If they're Republicans, giving them holy hell about capitulating to these cuts. And if they're Democrats, calling on them to use all their levers of power to stop this and not give an inch.
Where's the event with Richie Torres? Can I go to that one?
I'll shoot you the email later.
All right, great. I really look forward to that.
Oh, I can't block you in real life.
No. Rahna Epting, Executive Director of MoveOn, thank you so much for coming on today. Appreciate it.
Thank you to both of you.
Thank you.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.